Owned and operated by the GUR. Jerry Gardner with video gaming from J&J Gaming, serving Springfield and Central Illinois for over 90 years. We're back to the 709 Liquors Pressbox Show on Sports Radio 92.3 FM, 1450 AM, and the Sports Radio 1450 mobile app.
We're back from the Illinois State Fair, from the gazebo, right outside of 7th Street Barbecue. We talked last week or 2 weeks ago a little bit about a new podcast that's out that I really enjoy, and it's by a local guy. It's called The Post-Game Spread, and Blake Helm is the guy behind it. People may remember Blake played at Springfield High, football player, quarterback in football, baseball player, played at Lincoln Land Community College, baseball, of course, and then he went to Murray State. And Blake's with us now. Blake, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, Jim, it's an absolute honor for you guys to be talking about me, for you to have me on. I grew up listening to you guys on the radio and reading your articles on SJR, and I just have always enjoyed the quality that you guys put out. You guys both have golden radio voices, and I'm really excited to be here with you. Thank you, brother.
Hey, tell me about where did the idea for the podcast come about, and to talk a little bit about who you've talked to and how much fun it's been for you.
Yeah, so I am very romantic about baseball, if you can't tell, and I wanted a way to get back into the game and give back to the game, but I have two young kids that take a lot of my time, and I want to give as much as I can to them. So this was my way on my own terms to kind of give back to the game. And about 2 years ago, I went on a buddy's podcast and told my story. I had a very winding, crazy story through injuries and surgeries and military, and I got myself into pro ball, and there was a reality show. So I was on that podcast, The Forgotten Eagles, and he also let me kind of do one podcast with him where I interviewed him to see if I could do it, and then from there, the idea came of, I want to help tell these guys stories. I learned a lot about life through baseball, and I wanted to help tell these guys stories and have things that they could have for their family, for their friends to listen to forever. So that's kind of where it's gone, and I've done Ryan Afer, Dusty Bensko, Ryan O'Malley, Jason Knadler, and P.J. Finnegan thus far.
How about Joey Altsmeyer?
Oh, yeah, Joey Altsmeyer is my right-hand man on this thing. He was my teammate at Lincoln Land. Love that guy. I bounce all kind of ideas off him. We do a little side show called Out of Left where we kind of talk about the podcast and the guests and whatnot. So he's been tremendous through this whole thing as well.
You're not mailing this in. This isn't one of those things where you get on the phone and you just have the guy say, "Okay, tell me about your life."
Oh no.
You do a lot of homework. You talk to a lot of people. You do a lot of research. Yeah. You read a lot. How do you find time to do it, and how do you go about putting it together?
Yes, sir. I bet I had over 20 hours into the P.J. Finnegan backstory. So I start by talking to guys from their past that I think would be interesting. So coaches, teammates, friends, dads, moms, anyone that I think could have an interesting perspective. And then from there, I record the calls, and then I go back and listen to the calls and make clips out of them, and then I get the quotes that I think are interesting. I do it sometimes at night, or sometimes when there's downtime at the fire station when we're not doing anything, just sitting around. I'll kind of work on that, and I am a firefighter here in Springfield. So yeah, that's how I find the time.
Tell me some of the interesting stuff that you found out that you didn't know.
Oh man, I mean, all of them have really interesting stuff about just what they went through and like how it ended, and you know what they had to do to get where they wanted to be, when it became their love, their passion, what they learned about life along the way. Like baseball is a hard sport with a lot of failure built into it, so it really helps you grow as a person. And I just thought, I mean, it was awesome hearing how like Bensko, how his career ended, like hearing all the intricacies of Ryan O'Malley getting called into the big leagues. Like that should be a movie. That's incredible. And like P.J. Finnegan was all time. I can't tell you how fun that was to talk to him and just hear his thoughts and his process. And there's a reason he's a very successful person, and all these guys are kind of leaving clues to that. It's been really cool.
One of the things, and you and I talked about this outside of this interview, they're pretty long.
Yeah. You want me to speak to that?
Yeah, talk about
sure.
why you feel they're long and some of the feedback you've gotten about the length.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't want to miss one story. I don't want to miss one thing that connects the dots of, like, why I did this, why I was here. There's a lesson learned. Like, there's really nothing to trim. So I don't want, I don't care about reaching a national audience. This is, like, a total passion project, and I've also made it charitable. I've kicked $1,000 into the baseball community already. And, yeah, I got a little... You still there, Jim?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. The length. Yeah. So I just can't cut anything, and I want every story to be told, and I want them to let it unfold naturally. I don't want to try to box it in. So I understand that they're very lengthy. P.J. Finnegan's 6 hours long total, but if you love baseball, if you love these guys, you're going to listen, and if you don't, that's okay too. But the big thing is I want these guys' families to have these forever. It's going to be really cool someday when PJ's an old man or PJ's gone, and his kids can listen to this. So that was kind of my motivation behind the whole thing.
I think in every one, and I've listened to, if not all of the hours, I've listened to all 6 hours of P.J. Finnegan, but I've listened to this part of the O'Malley stuff. I thought the Bachelor story was unbelievable that O'Malley told. But
yeah.
I also enjoyed, and walking out here to the fairgrounds the other day, I ran into Greg Finnegan, and he and I talked about it. Some of the emotion that those guys, everybody gets a little bit emotional over the course of the podcast as well, and I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's been touching, especially to hear the dads talk, and I bet you I've gotten 20 to 25 text messages from people I know saying, stop putting these dad clips in there because you're making everyone cry. And there's just something very special about the father-son relationship in baseball. I have a very close relationship with my dad, and it kind of was built around baseball, and so I definitely try to feature that if it is a thing. So, yeah, O'Malley had some awesome stuff. If his dad, PJ's Greg's making everyone cry with his stuff, so it's been really touching like that. And I talked to Greg Finnegan for 2.5 hours about PJ, and that guy, man, that was such a great combo. He just loves PJ so much. And also, thank you for your help on the PJ story. You were amazing helping me with that as well.
What do you got planned down the road? Who has this thing all of a sudden grown out of control yet?
It's getting bigger, man, and people are like, yeah, it's gaining some steam, and it's been really cool. And Jay Crawford is our next story. And then after that, I'm going to need your help big time on this one. And actually, I chose it because of the conversation we had. We're doing Casey Erickson after that, and you told me when we were talking about PJ that you could write the book on Casey. So right then when you said that, I made up my mind Casey was next. So we're going to do Corey Erickson, Travis Scott, Eric Weaver, Justin Knadler, Dennis Worth, and somewhere down the line, I want to do like a shorter, like, where are they now guys like Eric Gum and Greg Taylor and Timmy Wallen and like Billy Clayton and those kind of guys too.
Yeah, over the course of doing these, you keep dredging up more guys because PJ talked about how good what he said was the one guy that he played with that he surprised never got a chance in pro ball was Eric Gum.
Yeah, multiple people have talked about Eric Gum. It's been really fun for guys to bring up the old names of coaches and players and friends that kind of help them along the way. That's been so fun to do.
What's the hard part about it? Putting it together is not an easy thing. You got all these clips. You read all these articles. You over the course of the podcast, you have transcripts of some of the tapes. You have recordings of some of the things that people told you. How much work do you put into a 2-hour podcast? How much time do you put into it?
It's ridiculous. Like I said, I put over 20 hours into the PJ Finnegan, and some of them maybe like 10, 11. But it's just having all that in front of me, knowing when to do it. I'm getting better as a host, I feel like. I'm progressing. Knowing when to shut up, when to ask a question, when to let them roll, when it's time to interject. And these guys really make it easy because I kind of let them know beforehand. Be thinking about some of these memories, and some of them, like with PJ, it was just like say one thing and he was just ready to roll. He had a story and he was on it, and that was just such a magical conversation. I mean, my PJ episode was very special to me.
You talked about you've given $1,000 back to the baseball community. Where did the money come from, and what's the talk about some of your sponsorship deals that you have?
Yeah, that's been really cool. It didn't start out as that, but my good buddy Joey Albsmeyer first came up with the idea of making it charitable. He kicks in $20 when we do an out of left. But then I kind of took it further, and I was like, why don't I start asking some people in the community that are kind of connected to baseball if they would be willing to make this charitable as well. So we've got Cardinal Cleaning, which is Adam Springer, former Chatham guy, Washco. Strength and Speed, he was at FBI, SHG. He's a firefighter as well. Bank of Springfield, they've got a whole stable of former baseball players, but Jason Knabler was the one who hooked that up. Milner Dentistry, Ty Milner, SCI, played at U of I, Rochester, and then Body Cemetery, which is a local training place where O'Malley used to train. I used to be a trainer there. I think very highly of the owner, Chad Marshik. So it's been really cool, and having people involved and wanting to kick some money. I've kicked money to Lincoln Land, Fairview, Southwest, and the Boys and Girls Club so far, and I'm going to keep doing it. I don't keep a single dime of it. All charity.
You mentioned earlier the podcast that was done on you. In that podcast, you and I were involved in a fairly interesting story where I got you in trouble and I kind of got myself in trouble. Could you tell that story about reality TV as far as sports are involved?
You want me to tell that story?
Yes, please, if you can.
Yeah,
unless those Cal Ripken people are still up your butt for it.
I don't think they care, and thank you for laughing about it because I've always felt bad about it. But so what happened was, while I was in the military, my last year, I got it in my head that I was going to play professional baseball. Long story short, it was an absolute journey. I was on the U.S. military baseball team, and then from there, some talent scout saw me and wanted me to come to this reality baseball TV show tryout called The Player. Cal Ripken Jr. was the host. I flew out to Aberdeen, Maryland, tried out for 3 days, had the baseball weekend of my life. I've never played that well, and I got selected. Cal Ripken Jr. threw me BP and gave me a hug and all this stuff, and so I was supposed to come back and film this reality show. The winner is supposed to get a minor league contract with the Orioles. Somehow we got to talking about it, and you did an article on it in SJR, and then they were furious because it hadn't been announced yet who was going to be on the show and all these things. So we were scrambling to get it off air, and thank you for being so kind to me through that. I'm glad you don't have a grudge against me because of that.
Your dad and I go back forever, but he's the one that called me and told me the story, and I thought it was a great story. And then all of a sudden he's saying, "Can you get that off the website? Can you get that blah blah blah?" And I'm like, I don't know. I guess.
I know. I'm sorry, Jim. I'm sorry. I was just excited, and the show never ended up happening. But I ended up getting to play professional baseball anyway because of some scouts that liked me there. So it all worked out.
Where did you play professionally?
Man, I bounced around independent ball for about 2 years. I was with the Trinidad Triggers originally in the Pecos League, and then the Schaumburg Boomers in the Frontier League. They released me. Then the Windy City Thunderbolts in the Frontier League. They released me. Then the Goodyear Centennials in the Freedom League. I played well there, and then I got hit in the head with a fastball, and I got post-concussion syndrome for about 4 months. And then finally, I signed with the San Angelo Colts in the United League, and I tore my UCL right before I was headed down there for spring training. So had a mixed bag of 2-year pro baseball there.
And what are you, about 38, 39 years old, Blake?
Yes, I'm almost 39. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
And you're a Springfield fireman?
Yes, sir.
That's what you did. You were in the military. You were also worked in the fire department, didn't you?
Yes, sir. I served 4 years in the Air Force active duty as a firefighter. I was out at Whiteman Air Force Base in Kansas City. I thought I was going to see the world, and they sent me to Kansas City.
Well, I wish the Cubs hadn't seen Kansas City today because the Royals beat the Cubs today, but that's another story. Hey, if people want to take a listen to your podcast, where do they go? How can they do it? And B, if anybody out there is interested, if they're a sports person, a baseball person, and they'd like to get sponsorship information, how can they do that?
Absolutely. We are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can look us up, the post-game spread. If you follow us, it'll save your place. Some people have told me that they have a hard time because it doesn't save their place. So if you follow us or subscribe, there's a button. It'll save your place. Is it wise to put my number out there? Or we're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. I can be contacted there. You know what? I'll put my number out there. If you guys want to get a hold of me, it's 217-502-3991. I would love to take any contributions. Again, not keeping a dime, all back to the community, giving back to the game that gave me so much.
Hey, Blake, thanks a lot for coming on with us and talking about your podcast, The Post-Game Spread. And if you can bear the picture that goes with the post-game spread on the podcast, why did you pick Big Bull to be Mr. Riggle to be your cover boy for your podcast?
It's great. It's kind of an inside thing if you're Lincoln Land. He was the old grandpa that would give us advice and say funny things, and he always joked about his ham sandwiches being the best. So kind of the post-game spread was kind of like joking about the meals you get after baseball games, but also kind of like what is life like for you after baseball, and kind of what did you learn along the way. So I've got a big soft spot in my heart for Big Bull, and so we decided to make Big Bull the picture for the podcast.
Well, he probably wants residuals, you know.
Jim, thanks for having me on, man. This has been an honor. I grew up listening to you on the radio, and it's weird. The other day when we were talking on the phone, I was like, man, the radio is talking to me, but I'm supposed to talk back. So this is trippy. Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, hey, Tim Schweizer is right here, and that's a bigger radio legend than I ever thought about being. So.
Absolutely. What a legend. Both of you guys. Seriously, I grew up listening to you both. I think you do an amazing job. Love your voices. I've always been a fan. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
The post-game spread, Blake Helm, local baseball legends of the 20th century, 21st century.
Sure.
You don't have to go back a million years to listen to these guys. Thanks, Blake. Take care.
I appreciate you, Tim. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Thank you. We need to break back after these.
Hendricks.